Hey Alpha fam, welcome back to another episode of Alpha Commission. Yesterday we were talking about how we busted through this kind of funnel resistance right here, and then we sat on top of the monthly and the monthly line of support here. We did flip it bullishly, and that would be a good buy-in point when we did a retest of the diagonal and then also of that monthly. Well, we bounced off of it. If you were able to catch that move, then a good place to sell. We were discussing is this new resistance that's being formed, right? This upward diagonal rather than the previous downward diagonal, which had been trapping us here. Now we're kind of trapped in this channel over here. And so that would have been a natural sell point. And of course, we were looking for this bigger move, which of course is kind of a weekly move, which can take time to play out. A weekly move doesn't just play out in one day. A weekly move can take a week or two to play out, even. But we have this kind of weekly move where there's this possible inverted head and shoulders, which, if we're able to eventually break through the resistance, could take us into these areas. And then we have this highly resistant zone up here. And so if we do break through that, then I would be thinking about taking profits in these areas. And if we can break through this area, then consider the next plan. However, we also discussed how this could go wrong, which is that, if this move fails, then there's potentially a negative retracement that could take us down to that 33K range. And so you would probably want to have some stop losses, and those stop losses would come into play if we break down underneath this horizontal. Well, just in thinking about that a little bit more, and the fact that I did point out that there can be a lot of shenanigans on the weekend, you want to understand that there are just retracements in the market. And so we do just have a bullish retracement here still. This was a bullish retracement. This is still a bullish retracement. We really don't have anything too terrible going on unless we break below this maybe a 35,500, 35,000 area, in which case, we could be talking about very serious falls down as this channel, we don't really know what could happen in these areas. But we do have this picture of the very low 30s. And so if we're holding this area, which we flipped this into support. You can see we came down. We also have these like weekly supports here, not just this yellow monthly, but also these little teal weekly supports. And we used it as support here. We almost lost it. We got ahead of it. And again, I just want to point out that we might be turning that monthly into resistance, even though there's a lot of weekend shenanigans going on. And let's go over to the CME professional charts just to take a look. We do have that CME gap here. If I put on a lower time frame, you can see how, we closed on Friday, and then we're opening up in the new markets, right? The new market week. And of course, this is the weekend, so there's a gap, there's a CME gap. And we're coming up to fill that. But the problem is that we're under these resistances now. We had flipped this into support, but we got under it again. And so it was kind of a resistance. It didn't put up that much of a fight. It looks like the weekly actually gave us a support. We bounced off of there. And this support actually may go all the way back to this support where we got a really nice bounce. So, and it was supposed to be our last line of defense based on, on-chain theory. But of course, we did fall through it back here. And so everyone was wondering what's going on with Bitcoin because, we very rarely break through those type of, hash rate limits. However, we actually bounced precisely on that line, so that's very interesting, bullishly, and are using it as support right now, which could be just an effort to fill in that CME gap. And I'm not sure how I feel about that because this CME gap is under this support. I mean, conceivably, we can even like put it up to here. You can see this diagonal. It's kind of formed, these candles. And yeah, I'm not sure how strong that diagonal resistance is. Doesn't really seem to connect anything. But we are underneath it right now, and it can be redrawn. It can be redrawn in a number of ways. Oops, this is the wrong one. Maybe it's like this, right? Maybe it's like this where that wick is, and we got above it temporarily. Something like this. So maybe we're going to come up here, fill this CME gap, and then we have to see, do we get rejected in this area? How do we play in this area, right? Are we able to get back on top of this resistance and turn it into support? Again, I can move it over here. Can we get on top of this resistance and flip it back into, and flip it into support? And then can we get above here? Then we would expect that measured move of the inverted head and shoulders to perhaps play out. This can take time. When I'm mentioning these things, these big formations that are playing out on the weekly, it can take time. And so, there's no rush. There's going to be a lot of news. We don't know how markets are exactly going to open up tomorrow for all of the markets, and just it could be bad. It could be bad. It could send us to a deep capitulation. And so I just want to prepare you for that. Just because I have this here doesn't mean that I think that we're going to skyrocket there. I just think that based on other indicators, we are capable of getting there, and that unfortunately we're living in a world right now where news is going to dictate the direction more than other types of fundamentals. And so, yeah, we have to just watch very carefully. But one thing that we discussed also was the EMAs. So let me go ahead and throw those on for the 4 hour. And we were talking about how when we have these, 4 hour crossings, these bearish 4 hour crossings of the 89 and the 200, there's one right there for the EMAs. And here was one right here for the MAs, the moving averages. This is kind of like a faster moving average. Just get rid of those drawings. So you can see they crossed negatively. This one might be actually uncrossing, so that's interesting. Maybe it's more temporary than we think. It's uncrossing right now, which is interesting. It could bounce. I mean, it could break down. But we'll have to follow. We'll have to follow and see how this goes, because uh, you know, this might be just a temporary dip, right? It might just be a temporary dip, or it could be a big dip. And we can go back into the past to kind of see how that's happened before. And we can see, let's not look at this chart. Let's take a look at maybe this chart. Yeah, we can see that they crossed negatively here and here, and they crossed negatively here and here, and those were followed by pretty sizable dips, right? So you can see price action was on a peak. There was a peak and then a fall, and then we had the crossings on a peak, and then we had another fall. And then things were reset and we were able to recover, right? Peak, fall, a peak, negative around the negative crossings. Oops, peak, fall, negative crossings, another peak, and then a fall. A pretty big one this time, right? So we don't know if that's going to happen again. We're just paying attention to these patterns. I'm not 100% sure that that's a reliable measure of it. And I wouldn't want to use it as the only measure. But if we do have this peak and then we have a fall, we have another peak where they cross bearishly, maybe there's a chance that we have another fall. And so how we recover right here is pretty important. It's just going to be a short video for today, just to follow up with some of the trade concepts that we had. And I told you, usually the price action comes up to meet the CME. And so we do see, again, on the smaller time frames, we see that we are kind of pumping back up to try to fill this CME gap. And it may, if it fails, I mean, that means that this area is much more resistant than we thought. But it could pump back up here and grab a hold of some support. And if we can get back into this bullish territory, that'd be nice because this was just a nice healthy pullback. Nice healthy pullback. Nothing too much to be afraid of until we get under, until we get under these areas. We start getting to these it's kind of bearish pullbacks. But that's quite a big fall anyway. So yeah, not sure what to think about the current moment. We're just stuck in between. We're just stuck in between. We do have USDT dominance coming down a bit, but it is in that support zone where it might bounce up. See a little bounce here, right? Little bounces here, gets under it, kind of rejects. So if we can break down, maybe Bitcoin will pump. But if this just chops here, maybe even reclaims these all-time highs, maybe something bad happens in the world. We're just watching this area. Just watching this area. The USDT also had kind of a bullish retracement on the on this big weekly kind of scale, right? A while ago, a couple weeks ago, had this move and then kind of bullishly retraced, which means it could potentially continue to pop up more. And this is relevant because, of course, the more people are in USDT, the more that the less that they're in Bitcoin, the less that they're in crypto in general. So we can see that, this pattern here, where one drive up, two drives up, three drives up. We've only gotten two so far, so is there going to be a third drive up? And are we going to kind of like capture this diagonal? Right, you can kind of see that. You can kind of see how we're in this these extreme levels here. And this is extra extreme, right? So recently, this is 2020, 2021. Are we going to have an extreme era in 2022? And is this a place that's reserved for people to get out of crypto and into their tether while the market suffers some major setback? Or are we going to stay in this kind of like a moderate channel where it's been pretty decent trading and where there's still money in the market? Maybe even break down, get into these healthier areas where the crypto market fills up. Because we've done it before. We've bounced off of these levels, right? This level right here, we've bounced off it before and just stayed in there. Maybe we can stay in this zone and just do some healthy trading until we get a really good run later on, where everyone, as we fall down here in a tether, will increase in crypto, right? So this would be our bull run. But if we're gonna continue bullishly upward because we have some type of bullish channel, some kind of bullish pullback, and then we just keep going, testing these upper limits, then that's going to be pretty bad. It means people are going to be getting out. You can see we have this channel right here. It's interesting that you can do TA on Tether, but we have this channel where we just hit the limit of the channel, right? This was marked off in advance. I didn't know we were going to hit this, right? because this just follows this point right here, this point right here, this point right here, this point right here, this point right here. This was marked in advance. I didn't know we would get rejected here, but we hit this mid-channel area, and then the amount of USDT just started going down. But that doesn't mean that it can't retest it and then break through it, because it just like it did here, right? It broke through it first, and then it retested and kept going on. Well, this could go up to it, and then retest it on this side and break up again. Keep going. This is an upward channel for sure, right? Which means that crypto is going down as Tether goes up. But if we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, we do have an interesting picture here where, we're in this kind of choppy area. And this, July 20th in the summer is when Bitcoin really broke out. Everything was dead in the middle of summer last year. All of crypto was dead, and then suddenly Bitcoin made this like choppy formation, during the end of summer after dropping a lot, made this choppy formation. And on July 20th, we just made this curl and just pumped to heaven, right? We just pumped to heaven, and this kickstarted the bull run. You can see that on the Bitcoin chart. Get some auto in here. See that on the Bitcoin chart. We have July 20th. That's that exact moment when that Bitcoin dominance just curled up and we just went on a run. So Bitcoin led that move. And we would expect that if this is going to be a recovery, that it would need to be led by Bitcoin, right? So we're all looking at this right now. There's a lot of room for Bitcoin to meet the top of its channel, right? Normally it kind of travels on these diagonals as it makes its way up. But this section right here caught my eye because it seems to be aligning pretty well with what we're doing right now. The only difference that I'm seeing here is that on this chart previously, we had this higher high peak, whereas, well, we did have a lower high right here before we made it go, but we had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but this one is lower than this one. And also, we've kind of broken down below this diagonal, right? So the foot of it, this one is a weird formation, but this one pretty clear. Boom, 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 boom. Stays on top of it. Just kind of drives up, right? All these higher lows. Just kind of drives it up. This one still did it. Just kind of more exuberantly, actually. But this one's breaking below that. It's not, it's just it's a softer rise. And so we also have this type of diagonal going on, which isn't too bad. We've seen something similar like here, right? And so that's not terrible. It could mean that we're just forming the top here. And so maybe we can just pull this back, maybe just like this one. Just say that it's not meeting the corner like that one did. Just give it some space to breathe. Or maybe this was an invalid line here. And maybe I should reconsider the bottom. Yeah, that's making a lot more sense, to be honest. But still, if we put a line here, we still broke down below it, and because it would have been like this, right? We broke down below it, We retested the underside of it. It became resistance. We got rejected. That's why I'm concerned with that lower high. We never broke down below it here, and we got a higher high. We got a lower high. So I'm curious if this is going to break down or if it's just going to take more time. Or what's going to go on, because we want to see this pump. We want to reach this this resistance line up here, or even break through it. That would be amazing, because over time, Bitcoin has lost some dominance, right? Kind of moving downward. And so this is the latest resistance that we're using for this kind of like big channel, the big consolidation. And what we'd really look for a crypto revival would be for Bitcoin to just pump to the top of this one. And then once it reaches that height and Bitcoin has like led the market forward, then altcoins would just take off as the Bitcoin slows down there and starts dropping back down. Then we'd be entering like an altcoin season where just alts just take off. If we just chop sideways and everyone's leaving the market, it just can be just stagnant. This is just one factor. This is like 3D chess. You have to like pay attention to all of these things. And so what we really want is for Bitcoin to take a lead on some charge and then give us lots of momentum in the market once it cools down, with the money just pouring into Bitcoin, and then that money takes some profit off of Bitcoin and starts putting it into altcoins, so we can get kind of a cycle going. And what might that look like on the Bitcoin chart? Again, it would just look like Bitcoin just like shot out. Just everyone thought Bitcoin was about to die, and then it just shot up, right? So we would be looking for something similar to that, where no matter what happens this week, maybe Bitcoin falls down. It happened here, right? We had like a pump and then Bitcoin just capitulated, just died. It happened here too. Bitcoin pumped and then it just died. But it didn't die just once, it died twice, right? So is there going to be another death of Bitcoin? And then when everyone's totally tired, who knows where we end up? Who knows where we drop to? Then that dominance in Bitcoin just takes off, and a new bullishness appears in the market, at least temporarily, or at least something to give us some type of movement. Just some things to look at. See how the grayscale chart is doing. Interesting. This fractal that I put up here is, look, almost exactly. Get rid of those drawings. Fall. Catch itself. This was a fake out. Catch itself. Peak. Catch itself down here again. Fall. Peak. Catch itself again. And then maybe another drive down, right? This was the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and so maybe that was a deeper drive than this fractal suggests. But again, I don't trade on fractals. I just use them for confluence. That's it. Fractals, even when they play out multiple times, they're not super reliable. So look, like we had this fractal here, and they dropped the length of the channel, right? These are fractals. It's just psychology. We had a similar fractal here. It dropped the length of the channel. This was last summer. It's just interesting. Like this behavior is kind of premised on this behavior because it's the same people trading. And so the psychology is similar. That's why I think if we get a pump, if this fractal, which I'm deriving from this space here, if this fractal really does play out, it's going to be because the same people are in the market and their psychology works very similarly, right? It's not like it's different people. It's the same people. And so under similar conditions, they're going to behave similarly. Why? Because, they just have it in them to be that way, right? So I'd be looking for some type of capitulation, and then they come back into the market. And this is a Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. This isn't Bitcoin. So this is what the smart money trades on, and it's inherently more bearish than the regular money in the 24-hour, just regular exchanges. This is there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to buy, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, at least officially. Although FTX has it on their exchange here, being tracked. See, they had a lower high, and the higher high was in the previous spring in 2021. And then at the end of the year, they had a lower high. But on the Bitcoin chart, we had a higher high here. We had like 69,000. It was higher than the previous spring. But the smart money was a little bit more bearish. And so I'm tracking this one just because it's a different set of people than the regular Bitcoin chart, but they're all thinking about the same asset. And so this opinion matters. And I really suspected that we would catch ourselves in this area because we did it over here. I suspected that we would drive all the way down the channel, and we did. We maxed out the channel. We didn't go below it. We maxed out the channel because we did it here. Everyone was thinking, oh, we're going to break through this. I just thought, no, it would be a good place to long here because, if we just follow the fractals, if we follow the trading psychology of the people in this market, their behavior would be to long at that support. And they did it. And then they shorted right at the resistance, which they didn't do here, but then they shorted before that. So it was also unlikely that we were going to break out. However, this did trick me. This did trick me because it was more bullish than this area. And so I was tricked. Yep. It ended up being another version of this fractal. It wasn't a breakout. It wasn't the breakout we were looking for. It was just another one of. So this one had 1, 2, 3. This one only had 1 during the previous spring. This was the winter, right? So looking at these things. And none of this is real yet. We can't count on any of this. We can't trade on this. Just we can get a little bit more confluence with what's going on right now. And so the confluence says maybe we're going to have a little bit more support than you think in this area. And additionally, this is maybe an invalid head and shoulders because this side is actually higher than this side. And so that would suggest that, okay, first of all, they're almost the same, okay? Like they're almost the same height here. You can see this shoulder and this shoulder. They're almost the same. And so if this does end up being a head and shoulders, you could take like the measured move and you could see where we could drop to. And it would be in this area. That would be something similar to like Bitcoin falling down to like $20,000, okay? 15, $20,000, something like that. Let's look at the Bitcoin chart really quick. Right? Like this area. Take some type of measured move. And then, yeah, like 25, right? That kind of thing. Then we have another potential head and shoulders here. Not really, I think. I think it's invalid. But let's just pretend it is. And then it also takes us into that $25,000, $30,000 area. Of course, if this is a head and shoulders, let's say like this, and we break down to 30K, and this is a lower shoulder than this one, which I don't know how valid this is because the head looks really weird. But just let's just say. Then we're seeing a drop all the way down to $15,000, right? But again, this is just all theory. You can see some type of diagonal here of support. See how this chops down? Maybe that's where the support is at $20,000, $15,000, right? Right at that previous all-time high, just retesting the previous all-time high. So it's possible, but this is what we're on the lookout for. This is what we're on the lookout for. Breaking below that $30,000 starts to look kind of confusing, you know, from a head and shoulders perspective. Of course, these are very sloppy head and shoulders, so probably not going to be the case. But it's very much in the cards. And again, if we go to our weekly EMAs, which I've pointed out several times, that's very much in the area of testing that 200 MA, which does seem to get tested quite a bit on Bitcoin. You can imagine the white line extending, getting tested here underneath the purple. Kind of the last point of support. So it's possible. If we don't go sideways, maybe it's possible that we just do an ultra dump into that 25 to $15,000 range. That's not what I'm projecting, just it's possible. And so that's why I'm double checking all these charts. So I'm just making these type of concepts. Even if it doesn't work out, just want to have the concept on hand. And we do have a head and shoulders here still. Which, if you use the grayscale chart, it's pretty much already played out. And this is the smart money. So I'm not 100% sure that we should really be worried about this section, this head and shoulders on Bitcoin anymore. It's pretty much almost played out, and then it was bought up. But does it mean that we can't come back here and test this area again? We could. We could. And then that would be this one playing out, right? So we could retest it. If this is going to play out the way that this kind of played out, it's interesting that on the grayscale it did play out, right? And so there's a high possibility that this one could play out. However, this we have to watch to see how big this shoulder becomes. Can we recover or not? And right now this shoulder does seem to be bigger. There's a lot more price action right here than right here, you know. So this one does seem to be higher in general, even though we have this wick. The price action seems to be higher, and we do have this upward diagonal here. Even in these wicks, we have an upward diagonal. Even in the mid channel, we have upward diagonal. And so even if we came down, maybe we just come down here to, what's 25,000 on grayscale. But on Bitcoin, that would be approximately 35,000. And what did I mention? That 35,000 would be an area that I could still support. I could still support, even if they freak us out, drop us down a bit, I could still support that. But below there, I'd be getting out because I don't know what's playing out, what type of head and shoulders might be playing out to lower levels. It's just very suspicious stuff. And I wouldn't be too worried. Just I don't want to, I'm not too worried about this drop. It could play out. Not too worried about it right now. But I just wouldn't want to suffer this type of drop. Yeah, that's possible. Possible. I'd rather sell at 35,000 and buy back in at 30,000 if we do break this area. But so far, we're turning back up and we're attempting to regain support, but it looks like we're getting a bit of a rejection here. And so we're really going to have to wait to see how everything plays out on Monday and Tuesday, how stocks are. Do stocks want to just drive us down because Bitcoin's traded almost like a tech meme stock these days? Pardon me, the other day I said a meme coin, but that's not true. It's traded a bit like a tech meme stock in the sense that there are just a bunch of people supporting Bitcoin based on, you know, factors that don't really add up to anything in terms of a profit and loss. It's just they're almost pegging it to the tech industry these days. It's traded with the S&P, it's traded with the Dow Jones and all those. So you have to pay attention to stocks quite a bit these days for Bitcoin, which wasn't the case previously. And it's not necessarily going to be the hedge that some people think. But times are changing, and if the Russian government and Ukraine and El Salvador and all these other countries start using Bitcoin in a different way than we expected, then maybe to go back to that Bitcoin dominance chart, maybe that could be the thing that just drives it up, that just fills in this gap right here. All right, this big gap. We filled it here, we filled it here. What's going to fill in that gap? What's going to drive Bitcoin up? What's going to just push the Bitcoin narrative? And the concern that I have is that, especially with this lower high here, the concern that I have is that maybe we see something like this. If Western nations say Bitcoin funds unethical wars, Bitcoin funds dehumanizing wars and is used by totalitarians, right? Oh, we might have a altcoin season, I don't know. But then we're gonna have to look at the total market cap, right? Because it's not just about dominance, but it's also the total market cap. And for the total market cap, wow, we really haven't broken out yet at all. Right? We're just going down, 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 down. We've broken under this support here. Right? So we're totally underneath it. We're gonna come back here and flip on top of it, but that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. We did have a nice double bottom, and the last time we had a double bottom was right here before we took off. So are we just making a little hook? Just making a little hook, and we're going to take off again. Get on top of this. I don't know. Bitcoin's going to have to be the thing that pushes this market up. You're going to have to see Bitcoin drive. That's why I'm talking about the Bitcoin dominance. Like we have to see Bitcoin just take charge of the market and just push, just drive a ton of Russian money, drive a ton of Ukrainian money, drive a ton of global money into Bitcoin, which I'm not supporting, you know, not supporting that necessarily. I'm definitely think that this industry has a lot of very serious problems, and that being used as a tool of funding by authoritarian regimes is not the dream of Bitcoin. Right? People who support Bitcoin, their dream was not that authoritarians would use Bitcoin, to drive wars. That's not what people who believe in Bitcoin want. But nevertheless, we'll be living in a world where right now it could be that market cap increases if authoritarian regimes start using Bitcoin to kind of bypass the US dollar and Europe, and the euro and the yen and all that stuff. Alternatively, we could be living in a world where we're just going to sink because the EU outlaws Bitcoin, the US outlaws Bitcoin as some tool of repressive regimes, right? This type of thing. I don't know. I don't know, but we do seem to have this kind of channel here. Yep, that was a drop. That was a very serious drop, right? So we do have this channel, and it looks like, right? It looks like touch here, touch here, top, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. That's going to be a huge drop in the market, right? We're talking about another 20-25% hit in the market if we have a sudden drop. And that's going to just destroy a lot of things. It will perhaps make a macro double bottom with summer. But a 25% drop in the total market cap of all of crypto, considering where your portfolio might be right now if you're holding on to things, that's going to be huge. But this chart suggests that that's what we're going to do. However, we have this, contrarian line here, which we're underneath it, right? So right now, this projection, this bearish projection of a drop, this one is winning. As long as we're underneath this line and this green line. But if something could just make Bitcoin pop off, sit on top of this pink line and the green line, then there's a chance that we could just continue this channel. All right. Where now this is our resistance and this is our support. And then maybe we can do something like this, right? So top to bottom, bottom to top, right? Something like this. And so we have this kind of cycle. And maybe regulation gets worked out, and we have a new era of Bitcoin, 2023, something like that. The bulls are hoping for this type of scenario. The bears are looking for this type of scenario. In both cases, we might, retest the line. I doubt this will happen, but, probably get back up here. Or just hang out for a while before taking off. This would be a crypto winter, right? Could take a while. Let's see what the EMAs look like on this thing. On the total market cap, on the monthly, it's still pretty bullish. We haven't lost this a 20 yet, but I guess the weekly is going to have a worse picture. Yep. So on the weekly, still suggesting that, we're getting supported by the 89. So we were supported by the 50 here. First, we were supported by the 10. Supported by the 10. Then the 20 offered a little support. Oops, 20 didn't offer any support. Well, right here, just a little bit right here. Then the 50 offered support. 50 offered support, this blue one. And then we broke down to the 89. Oh, breaking down to the 89. Look, the 89 MA and the 89, this darker purple EMA, they crossed negatively. Uh-oh, these ones look like they want to cross negatively. If you project this out, oh, well, let me delete that. Just delete all of that. If we projected this line, they're going to cross negatively, right? And when they cross, there's a huge fall right here, all the way down to the 200 EMA and the 200 MA. So that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good. It would suggest that our price is going to go something like this, kind of a fake out, and then crypto winter, and then we make our way back up over time, right? Something like that. And then this would be your buying opportunity right here for life-changing money. See how that works? It's a little bit of a grim picture, but if we can keep these, from crossing, again, if something just drives Bitcoin up, and we can do another one of these, these things, then going sideways is the same thing as having a deep correction, right? It doesn't give you as much energy to make like a life-changing money. You just get small returns. Small returns over time versus like a huge loss and a huge return. So clear losers and clear winners. Just everyone wins a little bit, everyone loses a little bit, right? Same thing. Time and distance on charts like are equal. So this doesn't have to be our fate. That's why we're at a critical point right here. We're at a critical point right here. A lot of people just recommend being in USDT, and that's why again I was looking at the USDT dominance to see, is USD pumping or is USDT dropping? Because it's an indicator of how bullish the market is, right? It looks like we might want to have a pullback, but then do we have another drive up? That's the question. That's the question. This does look like a double top on this weekly, which usually indicates a reversal, but I'm not sure how well that works on USDT. Just not sure. Kind of had one here, and we had a reversal. Kind of had one here, had a reversal. So maybe we'll have a reversal. Maybe the market's going to get bullish. But that's to be continued, right? To be continued. All right, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Just another chill talk for the weekend. Again, lots of shenanigans going on. Bitcoin doing its thing. Trying to recover that CME gap. But wow, getting rejected pretty nicely there. This wick kind of filled it. I mean, it didn't fill it completely, but maybe it filled it enough that it's considered filled. Right? I mean, let's get down on a shorter time frame. Get these CMAs off. How much of a gap is there still? Not much. Couple $100. Not sure if that'll be totally filled or not. But it tried. They tried to fill it, and we're once again below this support. So yeah, not sure. Let's see if we come all the way down here and then make another attempt, or if this is gonna hold. We are in the middle of these supports here. You can see it's just kind of bouncing between them. Found support here. See if we can try again. But this is a pretty dangerous area. Pretty dangerous area. And well, on the regular markets, we're in a little bit more secure spot. We're on top of a support, a diagonal support, and we're on top of a weekly support. I think that's a weekly support. Not really. Kind of. Anyway. Yeah. Maybe we're reacting to the diagonal primarily. But it's trying. It's trying. We have to find out. So I would have taken this trade as I was talking yesterday. I would have bought in here and sold up here at the resistance, which would have been a great trade. And then this, I just didn't even want to touch this. I said if we broke down under this area, I would have a stop loss here because I just don't want to play around with this. It's a little bit dangerous. You guys can do what you want. But yeah, these are my concerns. Yeah, the world is very complex right now. Not looking the best. Not looking the best. But I've also had episodes where I went over some things that do look good. And so let's just see if we get a capitulation and a perhaps a bullish reattempt, or if we can get back above these supports, these resistances, and turn them into support. And hopefully we don't break down below 35,000, because then we'll probably be going lower. That's your alpha for the day. Stay safe, guys, and happy trading.